Hello again, and everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Fantasy Football Expo podcast series. I guess we'll call it the sequel, right? The sequel. And my good friends here, Ted and Hunter from Didit, did not make it. We didn't get a chance to get together beforehand. So they've asked that we do a little show and we talk about their history, why they've created this really cool new tool called Didit, and then ask them about the Expo, their thoughts, and we'll kind of hear from them as first timers, both as an attendee and as an exhibitor. So, gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for reaching out to me and allowing us to put this back together again for one more show here for the end of the year. How's everything going since the Expo?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Bob. Expo was great. Glad to be tacked on to the end here as an after movie, cherry on top, if you will. Right. We're Didit. Ted and I are excited to get going and excited to chat with you.
Cool. Ted?
Yeah, so likewise, we had a blast at the Expo. Just to give a little bit of background, Hunter and I are very close friends from high school. Our careers took us in separate paths out of college. I went down the finance path, spent some time at an investment bank, and then in private equity, versus Hunter was more on the startup route and worked at a couple companies in product and technology and e-commerce strategy. So I'd say we have pretty complementary skill sets. I can let him get into a little bit of the vision and what we're trying to do with our product, but that is sort of the backstory for how we got together to start building a startup together.
Awesome. All right. Well, then let's take a few steps back. Let's go back. Just how did you get involved in fantasy football? What year was it? Who pulled you into this what seemed like a cool but you're not sure about kind of thing? How did you get started in just playing fantasy football? So whoever wants to go first.
So you have to take it back to 2008, which is we were sophomores in college. And we started a fantasy football league called the Deerfield Academy Fantasy Football League, the DAFL. And we drafted in the student center. And, it was kind of like a nice to have throughout high school. But once we separated and went our separate ways into college, it became like a way for us to keep in touch. Group chat, kind of was Group Me back then. And it, now it's a main part of our lives. We do an in-person draft every year. We usually get all but one person who has a legit excuse. Well, there are many definitions of legit excuses, but sort of legit excuses. And yeah, so we've always been good fantasy players. And been in a number of leagues. We were in a hockey league as well, but football is kind of our main focus. And we felt like our product has it makes sense a lot for our product.
Right.
Yeah, my initial foray into fantasy was actually, I started in fantasy hockey back in, I think, 2004, maybe even earlier when I got my first computer as a little kid. I was just always really obsessed with statistics. I would check the newspaper every day to see the standings. I'm a big New York Rangers fan. I've always been a massive NHL fan. So I sort of was always intrigued by, seeing the numbers stack up, seeing your team performance. And, I'm very competitive, as is Hunter. So that's how I got into it. I was always in public leagues. I didn't know anyone in the leagues, but I just thought it was really cool. And then once we got to high school, Hunter and I sort of put our heads together to build this league. And he's been running it as commissioner since. And I help out around the edges, but mostly his show.
Interesting, because of all the people I've interviewed, I've never heard anybody start, even with baseball, start with a different sport than football. Football leads to, football is the gateway drug, right? Then you start, okay, now I'm going to do hockey, now I'm going to do baseball, now I'm going to do, whatever. But the fact that you completely started brand new with hockey and then kind of took that hockey love and built it into football, you are definitely, sir, one of the unique ones out there. That's for sure. Well, gentlemen, so you've played some fantasy football a number of years, up to 15 years, it looks like, for the both of you. tell me how then you're, you guys obviously have known each other for a long time. You've, went to colleges, different scenarios, different life choices from a business standpoint. But tell me how this all got back together and how this cool new product Didit came together, and then tell the folks all about what Didit is.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, Didit is a platform for knowledge sharing, individual one-on-one knowledge sharing. We believe in a future in which someone can get on the phone with an educated and experienced human being that knows more than them about a subject near instantly, and to pay them to compensate them for their time appropriately. And a few years ago, Ted and I, we've always wanted to work together. We've recognized we don't see eye to eye on everything. Like he's more of a left brain guy. I'm more of a right brain guy. And I think that's what's good about and the fact that we know each other, and then we can yell at each other and like everything's going to be okay. But we got together, about 2 years ago, and we launched this product that basically facilitates what I just described, which is the ability to communicate, to connect with someone instantly who's educated and experienced in a field, and to get their knowledge. There's a number of applications for this. Like, I'm a big fly fisherman, right? And I have a skiff, and I wanted to rewire the boat trailer on my skiff. And I've watched not hundreds, but I've watched over 10 hours of YouTube videos on how to do this. I have 2 different lighting packs and wires. And I know, and the YouTube videos are like, cut the red wire. There's no red wire. Okay. There's no red wire. And then the next video is like, oh, you need this. And I go to the hardware store and I get that. And I just can't do it. And I know that if I could just, video chat with someone, show them the wires, show them the stuff I have from the hardware store, they could tell me what to do. And so that translates very well to fantasy football and to sports, because people want edge. And we launched in a pilot in December of last year in fantasy football. And there was great demand, especially the dynasty guys were calling in the off season. And during the off season, we tried our hand at other categories: fitness, nutrition, wellness, cooking, food and drink. And I always forget them. Ted, what are the other categories?
Beauty. We had Nicki Minaj's makeup artist on there.
Wow.
Well, yeah. We had legit, but the demand wasn't there. And we discovered we did sort of a reflection in the middle of the off season, if you will, in the spring. And we realized that there are key levers that make fantasy sports and sports in general very compelling for our product. One is that there's a huge confidence gap. The people who play fantasy games are typically all across the board. Some of them spend 5 minutes on it, but they're in a very competitive league with a huge pot, a week. Right. And then there's people who spend their lives on this stuff and don't play for money at all, And so there's different sort of like archetypes of human beings who play fantasy. And a lot of them are oh my God, my draft is tonight. Like, I need some rankings. Like, I need some help now. And we're in an instant gratification generation. And that makes it really compelling there. The other one is like a liquid market, like microtransactions are entering leagues and entering contests happen all the time. So there's money changing hands in fantasy sports specifically, and at an increasing rate with these best ball leagues, et cetera. And then the other one is a passion economy. It's people are super passionate about it. You are literally capitalizing, Bob, on the passion economy in what you do with the Fantasy Football Expo. People come to play flag football with Des Bryant and visit the Didit booth. Like, these are the only reasons why they go. But and then the other one is that there's a ton of writers out there, a ton of content creators who create content for the greatest common denominator, right? Like, anyone who's posting anything on the internet right now is looking for volume. whether that's in likes, whether that's in views, whether that's in, minutes watched, whether that's ad clicks. Like they need to appeal to a mass audience. And there are tools to personalize, but inherently that stuff is not, it doesn't help anyone specifically. And we felt like this is an area in which you can get personalized advice one-on-one and have undivided attention of someone that you look up to, someone that you've been reading for years, someone that you finally have an opportunity to have some one-on-one time with. And that, as you see from the Expo, some of these guys, like, and a lot of them, like, are people's heroes. Like, they read every single word that they tweet, that they write, that they record, etc. So it was really great to see that, and it's really great to see that happen on our platform as well. That was a very long answer, so I thank you all for hanging in there.
Ted?
Ted, anything to add?
No, not a whole lot. I mean, I think the biggest reason that I think fantasy sports and sort of DFS, and we'll get into sports betting eventually, but the reason that that's been more successful is because of the tangible ROI. You can Google beauty, fashion, cooking, fitness. You can Google all that stuff. You can also Google fantasy rankings, but it's going to be pretty generalized, and everyone else has access to it. And your league might be a little different than the league that the settings that are underlying those rankings online. So people have money on it. There's actually a call to action. They want to increase their chances. They want to create an edge. Everyone always talks about edge. If you can get a 5% better chance of winning via a 6-minute, $12 call with someone you've been following for years, and also get a lot of happiness and joy out of that call by being able to connect with someone who's like-minded, then people think it's worth it. So that's why I think it's been working more than the other categories. But we still obviously have a ways to go. Just keep spreading the word.
Yeah, and the guys that, just to add to that we have on our platform, like, for example, like Jody Smith was one of the best ranked draft experts.
Oh yeah, Jody's definitely one of the top.
Yeah, and Adam Ronis is like the founding father of he's on Mount Rushmore for Sirius XM radio. Like, these guys have they're part of the foundation of the industry, and they're making themselves available on a one-on-one basis to you when you most need it. And they're right there. So we've made it easy and simple, A, for the user to get this advice, but also B, for a lot of these guys to monetize, right? So like you talk about the FF Expo, has everyone from, the top of the market, football guys, NBC Sports, like, they're on a different level. And then there's a lot of guys like JJ Zachariason, for example. Like, he is pedal to the metal on his own brand and his own content. And I think he's doing a really good job. And, he came up to us and we love his content. I think Late Round QB is probably one of the best produced podcasts aside from the Fantasy Football Expo podcast, Bob.
No, I totally agree with you. JJ is definitely one of the best out there. It's not even a question. Yes. Yeah.
And like a lot of these guys, it's a great way for them to monetize their time, especially their downtime. And it's not like they have to be, on their phone all day. It's basically on-demand consulting income for them.
Right. No, that's super cool. So tell people how they do this. How do they download the app, set it up? Is there certain time periods when these guys will take calls? How does it all work?
So basically, it's an app, an iPhone app. You download the iPhone app.
Just iPhone?
Just iPhone for now.
Oh, okay.
Stay tuned. We're coming to the Nintendo 64 in a couple weeks, and then we'll follow that with the Sega Dreamcast. No, I'm kidding. Android. We'll have a web platform in a few weeks, and then we'll have an Android app hopefully down the road. But web will be first because that'll handle everyone. And then so you download the app in the App Store. Didit Sports Advice, and you can see over 40 fantasy experts right there. If there's a green circle around their name, it means they're online. You can call them right away. Interestingly enough, timing is everything. in 2 days, Labor Day weekend, we are doing an entirely free weekend on Didit. So it is free for everyone to use.
Nice.
So don't bankrupt us, Bob. Calling everyone. We know these guys. We know you have their personal phone numbers.
I say I have all their personal phone numbers.
Yeah. So if you know what, some people have Labor Day plans, and they can't make a call, even though it's 100% free all Labor Day weekend. We do have a first call is free outside of that promotion going on. So if you want to use Didit, and you should, now is the time.
Cool.
Yeah, so from the expert side, you can indicate online or offline. There's a switch in the app. And then there's also a chat capability where if you're not online and someone sees you on the app, they can message you. You can set up time. We will have a product coming to market that allows you to schedule time blocks, sort of like a Calendly functionality. But right now it's all on demand.
So I would assume then, because of the iPhone scenario, if an expert, just say like, I don't know, me, wanted to do this, I have to have an iPhone, right? I can't do
iPhone or iPad right now, and then within a couple of weeks, you'll be able to do all of it through your computer. So that'll handle all the Android experts. And, we've spoken to a bunch of people, both on the expert and user side. A lot of people like to be on their computer, whether that's Excel or a bunch of rankings or research up in the background. So we are actively prioritizing getting that web platform stood up as early as possible this season.
Well, that's cool. Well, thank you again for this. But let's talk a little bit about the Expo. So you guys came. This is your first year. You brought this super cool product for everybody to see and listen to and kind of get some background on it. Obviously, it was a good spot for you because you got not only the experts here and you got the users here. So tell us about the Expo, your experience, this first time. Has it worked out for you so far? And do you have any recommendations for improvements for next year? And trust me, I'm good with whatever you say.
Yeah, I think Ted and I had a great time doing it. The Hall of Fame makes a lot of sense. Big football country there. I think, if you could just make sure that it's like sunny next time. And
less thunderstorms and torrential downpours would be great. You missed the last 2 years. It was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely be back. I think it was really great seeing like the community. There's a lot of buzz. I love the draft rooms. I think one of the things that would have been cool is to have those drafts in an area where more it feels more welcoming and comfortable for like someone who's not, at the draft or like participating in the draft or friends with all the people in the draft to be able to like watch that stuff. Because I mean, the people in some of those draft rooms are, the top guys in the industry. And it's really cool to be able, like we snuck in the back and got a couple chairs. But it's definitely something that everyone there would have really liked to enjoy. And I think that, those rooms, while they had huge screens and big tables, and the auctioneer was unbelievable in the auction draft that we went to. Shout out to the auctioneer who just kept the mojo flowing. That would have been my one takeaway. And also, if you could talk to Canton, one of the Madden controllers in the basement on the Madden Madden 23 thing wasn't working. So
true story. I think the kid was probably
I set myself up for this.
I was the Ravens, he was the Chiefs. I think a 6-year-old came up wearing a Mark Andrews jersey, who I had already scored 3 touchdowns with in that game. I handed over the controller to him like a good guy, and he absolutely stomped Hunter and won the game, and his dad and I were applauding. So that might have been my highlight.
Highlight of the weekend was watching a 6-year-old beat down.
It was a broken controller. I'll take it to my grave. Right. Bringing my own controller next year.
I would say another highlight for me was being able to hang out in the stadium, the Hall of Fame, where the Hall of Fame game is every year. And the fact that the Saturday night party was there, you just really felt the aura of the season coming up. It was a much more informal environment to be able to meet people. You could grab a couple drinks, grab some snacks. Hunter and I went around with a camera and a microphone, and we caught some really good content. People are very opinionated about, who they think the sleepers are, who the busts are. And we've been able to string that together and sort of put it all side by side, and it's just very interesting. So It was perfect for engagement. You know, you could go downstairs outside to the beer pong tables, or you could go upstairs to the the more covered areas when the rain came and went. But overall, I thought having it at the stadium, like right next to the field, really was a big pro to the weekend.
No, I appreciate that. I will say, Hunter, going back to your statement about the kind of more open scenario with the draft. So 2 years ago, we did it that way, not on purpose. It's always been inside the hall, but we had to move it, and we moved it into the press box at the football stadium, which was super cool because you overlooked the field, and it was really awesome. But the problem is when you get 150 people in a room and you're trying to do an auction, you can't hear. So I love the idea, but I don't know how to do it to get more people to watch, but also not to be loud while we're trying to do an auction. So,
can you put it on the Jumbotron?
It's certainly possible. I mean, and maybe that's something we had talked about, maybe, we'll do something like that.
And you can put it on the audio in the stadium, like on a few of the speakers, and then everyone can be there.
I mean, it is broadcasted live on Sirius XM, so you can listen to it.
We were listening to it while we were in the room.
There you go. Yeah, you're like, we're here. It's cool. Yeah. No, and I love that people come and watch this, and they're excited to do it. So, that's why we kind of put the chairs and tables in there so people can walk in quietly, watch, see the board, hear the guys talking, trash, whatever it is, but we've never had that kind of. I guess people never seem to be overly excited about it as much as I thought. And then when we had it wide open, it became a thing. And I'm like, okay, well, if we move it back to the hall, now we don't have the room. And so it's a tough scenario because you want to have people engaged and listening and following their favorite experts and that. But on the other hand, it was like we had to just literally stop and yell, people, you need to calm down. Now, the fact that it was the bar and the rest, and the food is right there beside it didn't help. So we'll see. We'll figure something out to kind of get it more engaged. But now that we have so many different Kings Classics and the Queens Classic and everything else, it'd be great to put it all in one big room. So then everybody can kind of if you had all the boards up and big screens, but they don't have that facility yet. But we'll see. Maybe they'll get there. They said they're going to expand some more stuff and more things are coming. So, cool. Maybe we'll get to that point. I mean, and I love the idea and I'm certainly all behind it, but we've tried both ways and it's just easier for the guys to draft with fewer people, at least especially quieter people, just kind of chatting amongst themselves, but also watching what's going on. So, but I definitely love that idea. So, so just for anybody else out there, talk about it from just, experiencing it as an outsider looking in. What can you tell people to expect if they're coming, whether they're coming as an exhibitor or just a fan? And this is a big thing. Everybody, the fans all hear that's just content creators and, and it's not. But we want more fans to come. We don't want them to think, well, if I'm not a content creator, I shouldn't go. It's not what it's about. It's about everybody. I always say I'm a fan of everybody and everybody's a fan of me. I buy other people's websites and subscriptions and books, and people might buy my consistency guide. And, so we're all fans of each other because we all have niches that we're, trying to promote and sell and, and get known out there. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years, so I've put my time in. So that's why everybody knows me now. But, for the new folks coming in, what advice would you give them now that you've been there, seen it, did it? How's it go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably one of the best visceral, holistic experiences of what the great game of fantasy is. The opportunity to meet some of the people who are ultimately the reason that fantasy exists, as well as the people, I met, an 8-year-old kid who was so into it. And, I
love that when the dad comes with the kid. Yeah.
It's just, it's awesome. And it's a good representation of a great game.
I would say my one piece of advice to people going to this is you have to be comfortable putting yourself out there. If you are an introvert, if you don't like meeting new people and you're intimidated by that, you will not thrive. And, I think everyone battles with that a little bit. But I think the lesson that I learned, and Hunter's, big time extrovert, say I'm maybe slightly less so, but I would still consider myself an extrovert. Anytime that I wasn't sure if I wanted to go up and talk to someone, I was happy I did afterwards. So
Right.
In order to thrive in this environment, you have to be comfortable going up and meeting new people.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. And, it's interesting because 2021 was the first year that we got big. So its first year was 2019, only had like 75 people there. 2020 came. I literally didn't even know if this thing was going to continue. So we tried it in 2021, 500 people showed up. But interestingly enough, one of the things that came out of that was somebody who was a big time, high anxiety introvert but wanted to come because he was in the industry, so he knew, like, he felt like he had to go, but he was really torn. And he said he decided to go, was really worried, had a lot of anxiety. And he said by the end of the weekend, he felt like everybody was his brother or his best friend. And, that really meant a lot to me, not because I literally went out of my way to make sure that happened, but the fact that the community made that happen. And when he walked out of it and wrote this article and put it online, it said, hey, community, if you're worried about coming to this, don't be. Whether you're introvert, extrovert, anxieties, whatever, come, enjoy, talk about fantasy football. If that helps your anxiety, which does for 99% of us, depending on how our teams are doing, but you know what I mean, then it is really, I think the guy even put his article, he goes, it was like a therapy session for 3 days. He goes, because I just felt comfortable and nobody made me feel like they do on Twitter, where you're an idiot because you said this or you like this player versus that player. It was all like, oh yeah, now that makes sense. And, if you thought about this, and that was what was great, is that doesn't happen there. One of the things that, you see on Twitter, especially in the fantasy world, is there's a lot of trolls, and you put something out there and you're super confident about it, and then it goes bad and they just start beating you down. And I said, that doesn't happen at the Expo. And if they did, I think they'd get their ass kicked. I'll be honest with you.
I agree.
Nobody would put up with that kind of stuff. So it does make me feel good that you guys feel the same way as a lot of people have, that, hey, this is a good community. It's a good time. Enjoy it. The weather can be crappy, but not always that. But, it is Ohio, so it is what it is. But any last things you guys want to say before we wrap this up? I appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your afterthoughts here, and we'll get this posted here within a pretty quick time frame so that everybody can kind of watch and learn and see, and we'll be excited to see you guys in 2024, August 9th through the 11th. So yeah, either one.
Final thought, check out Didit. I mean, it is, yes. We have not had a customer rate an expert at anything besides a 5-star review. And that's because when you get on the phone with someone that you share a common interest in something, in this case, it's fantasy football, you guys at the very worst are going to have a great conversation.
Right.
And at the very best, and what happens in all of our calls is that you're going to get a tremendous amount of value from that. So check it out, use it. It's free this weekend. Thanks a lot, Bob, for having us, and we'll see you next year at the FF Expo, and we'll be bringing the sunshine.
Definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us. I appreciate you having us as well. I think Hunter covered the sales pitch. I would say don't be afraid to draft your way. Just because you read that you can't take a quarterback in the second round doesn't mean you're not allowed to do that. I took Jalen Hurts at 21 in our home league, and I feel great about it, and I'm a Giants fan. So fantasy is for everyone. Do it your way. Enjoy it. And like Hunter said, if you want to run things by someone, our platform is great for that. Bob, really appreciate you having us. And
thank you again, guys. And where can they find you guys on Twitter?
At Get Didit.
Get Didit. Love it. All right, gentlemen. So for Ted and Hunter, I'm Bob Lung, Fantasy Football Expo. Thank you again for all of you who came to the Expo this year. Really appreciate you. We'll see you all next year. Everybody take care. Have a great fantasy football season. And if you're struggling, don't forget to hit the Didit. Take care, guys. Do you want to continue to learn more about the Fantasy Football Expo? Well, then subscribe to our channel so you don't miss an episode.